over in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia warns pilgrims over the coronavirus, and health officials have asked the pilgrims visiting their holy sites to wear masks in crowded places to stop the spread of the MERS coronavirus. This is a deadly virus, and 38 people have died from the virus in Saudi Arabia. Millions of Muslims around the world are expected to take part in the Hajj this October. Once a year, they make their journey to Mecca in Saudi Arabia and pray together before the Kaaba. Muslims also travel to the site at other times, as well as visiting the Masjid el-Nabawi, the Mosque of the Prophet in Medina. Health officials urge people taking part to maintain personal hygiene standards, using a tissue when sneezing or coughing, and have the necessary vaccinations. The MERS virus emerged in the Arabian Peninsula in September 2012 and is part of a large family of viruses, which include the common cold and SARS. And moving on to one of our final news items for today. Everyone knows what a SWAT team is, and everyone knows what they're used for. But did you know that there were over 50,000 SWAT team raids annually in America? Yesterday, the Salon published a fantastic interview with Radley Balko, author of a book, Rise of the Warrior Cop. And the interview focused on the fact that a number of SWAT teams raids have soared from a few hundred annually in the 70s to more than 50,000 per year by the year 2005. To make matters worse, most of these raids were focused on nonviolent crimes. Radley identifies three main forces behind this disturbing trend: the war on drugs, the national overreaction to 9/11, and the creation of massive funding behind the Department of Homeland Security. Moreover, once these SWAT teams are in place, the individual police officers feel pressure to use them in order to justify their existence. So that is the news for today, folks. We have to look at things every day, and we see changes in our society and changes in our everyday lives based on news events, either locally or elsewhere. And even though we don't feel that we have a direct connection between some of these news events, they do have some sort of an impact, whether direct or indirect. And if we're looking at the long view and the broad brush of some of these things, like what's going on in Egypt with the Taliban in fighting beside the rebels in Syria, and with the breakout of this coronavirus in Saudi Arabia, and also the other things with Fukushima poisoning the Pacific Ocean with radioactivity. We have to look at how these things relate to each other, and what in the world is going on. President Obama sees climate control as a major issue, but he feels that he can't push through any legislation that can cause anything to be changed. So he himself is taking it upon himself to be personally responsible for it. And also, the breakdown of our legal system in America, the breakdown of the belief in our legal system in America. We have to look at these things, and we have to say, what is going on? Just about 15 short years ago, America was in relative peace, and it was before 9/11 occurred, and that we did not have the banking meltdown. We did not have the runaway inflation. We did not have all of these viruses breaking out, and these things, with nuclear things, they occurred sporadically, but, not on the scale that they have now. And we have to look at it and say, what in the world is going on? Well, we have to go back to the Bible to be able to get answers for these things, because that's the only source that we have. and because it is the most reliable source that we have. And if you go and you start looking, well, people make the world what it is an old saying. But if you start looking at it and you start looking at where we are on the map of humanity and where are we, on the timeline, God's timeline, we look at things and the Bible says, well, at the end of time, there will be people with reprobate minds. And what is a reprobate mind? A reprobate mind is one that used to believe in good, but now believes in evil and worships evil, and it's turned its back on good. It's turned its back on God's teaching and God's way. And it was an intentional turning. It was an intentional act. It was an intentional decision. So you got to look at it from that perspective. Okay, we're dealing with people now that have totally forsaken the way of righteousness, and now they're seeking their own goals and their own ambitions and their own desires. So, that being said, what does the Bible say about a reprobate mind? It says, strive to, Luke 13:24 says, strive to enter in at the straight gate, for many, I say to you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. And once the minister of the house has risen up and has shut the door, and you begin to stand without and to knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open unto us, and he shall say unto you, I know you not. Whence are ye? Then you shall begin to say, we have eaten and drunken in thy presence, and thou hast taught in our streets. But ye shall say, I tell you, I know you not whence you are. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. So this is saying that God will take his hand off of a nation or a world or nations if they turn away from him. And that's basically what is happening in America today, is they are turning away from God. They are excluding God from schools, excluding God from the public, excluding God from being in the, mentioned in the Christmas holidays, excluding God from being mentioned, in the Pledge of Allegiance, excluding God from being shown on a cross in Arizona or Colorado, wherever it was that they had removed, excluding God from them taking away all the vestiges that remind people of the greatness of the foundations that this country was created on, and turning it into a secular, atheistic nation. And it's kind of strange that the Soviet Union would turn towards God, and you can see them becoming more prosperous than the United States is. The United States is going towards the direction that the Soviet Union went in way back in the 1920s and 30s. So you got to look at it like, what is going on here? Are we doing an exchange of identities? Are we becoming them and they're becoming us? Did the us leave the U.S.? Have we succumbed to technology to the point where we don't believe in anything but technology and knowledge and science? And we've turned our backs on God, which is reprobate. If we were once believers and now we become unbelievers, we're reprobate. And that's without remedy. There is such a thing as backsliding, but reprobate is far, far worse. Reprobate is irrefutably, I can't say it. You cannot revoke it. And it's a dangerous position to be in. Only God can have mercy on you, and God will give you another chance. God is a God of the second and third and fourth and fifth chance. And but you've got to realize one thing, that if we have leaders that have reprobate minds, they will not be people that will seek to do the godly thing. They will be people that will be self-seeking. They will be people without principle. They will be people without morals. They will be people who do not care about what the impact of their laws are upon the people of the land. In fact, they will probably move in a direction of trying to eliminate their enemies instead of tolerate. So we've got to realize that, and that's the broad brush of things as seen from me and from others uh, who believe that righteousness exalted a nation, but sin is a reproach to all. And if this country does not turn back from its moral free fall and its cultural descent into Hades, then each individual will have to stand on his own and give an account, and they themselves will be cast into Hades. We collectively, as a group of people, as we call ourselves Americans, we call ourselves the U.S., us, we have to take a stand, and we have to take a moral stand, and we're at that point of decision. So today I'm asking you to turn back, to repent, to use a biblical term, change your mind and turn back from your wicked ways and go back to the time in which things did work and see where we went wrong and go back to those beliefs and go back to those traditions and go back to those things that we held to be true and self-evident, and turn away from this edge of the pit that we're at, because America is standing on the edge of a pit right now, and it's getting ready to take a pitfall if it does not change its ways. So technology is nice, but knowledge is what caused mankind to fall in the first place. Let's take a look. Let's just see which group of people were happier. Were they happier 20 years ago, or are they happier today? Were they happy 5 years ago as opposed to today? You can see we've progressively gotten worse. So let's turn back, America, please, before it's too late. We're out of time on this broadcast today, but I'd like for you to take a moment and consider giving yourself back to God, back to the originator of good, back to where all good things come from, and back to the founder of the United States of America, who allowed it to be founded. And this country owes its existence to God, because it's been at peace with itself for years and years and years, over 200 years. There's not been a foreign incursion on the continent in which the United States rest. And we've been blessed by that. But Europe has seen two major wars and a bunch of skirmishes here and there, and the rest of the world has too. But we have been blessed to have friendly neighbors to the north and the south, and we should be grateful and thankful to God for this. But you know what? We've been lulled into a false sense of security. The world has changed. Airplanes have made the world smaller and made it easier for people to travel back and forth, and also to create havoc in our nation as well as others. Please, America, consider the warning. You have been warned. You have been warned. You have been warned. Turn back, turn back, turn back. This is Dan Beasley wishing you a good and godly day, and I hope that you will heed my warnings and heed the words that I have brought to you today. And anyway, I look for you to join us again in our next broadcast. Thank you, and have a great godly day.